Hello, welcome you all. Myself MP Mishra, Faculty, School of Computer and Information Sciences, IGNOU, New Delhi. Dear BCA students, I am with you with a topic on C++ programming. Basically, this session is for the BCA third semester course BCS 031, that is programming in C++. So for that, this session I have planned, and this session will be basically covering about some basic aspects of the C++ programming and that particular aspects which are covered in your first block of the course material. As you know, your course material is having 3 blocks. Block 1 discuss about the basic concepts or basic constructs of C++ programming, and then it discuss about some basic features of object-oriented programming like class, objects, constructors, and different kind of other features like encapsulations and data hiding and few more. So these are the basic constructs which are used for writing your C++ program, or rather you can say for solving any problem using C++ programming language. So in this first block you learn about the starting or the basics of C++ programming. Then gradually you move forward and you try to learn with some more advanced features like inheritance, polymorphism, and some more associated features like how C++ programming provide the overloading of operators and few more. So gradually as you proceed in your study, you might have studied your block 1 and you might have some problems. If you are having some problem associated with your course content of your first block, please put those problems in the form of comments in this particular session. Once you put your comment, we look into the comment after completion of this particular session or after completion of the session, and we try to answer the questions. So the student who have already participated in different Facebook live sessions and they have given their comments, so those comments has been addressed as per their specific questions given in the comment. So it is advisable to you to give your comments in the comment section. As a practice, I was usually following the bilingual communication with you, but in this session I have decided to communicate in you maximum in the English language only. If you need some kind of help or if you need some clarification, you can write in your comment so that I will be bilingual at some point of time in this discussion. And in that bilingual हम थोड़ा हिंदी में भी बात कर सकते हैं अगर आपको ज़रूरत है तो. So that will happen only if you are giving your comments in that form that you need some kind of bilingual conversation. So that only I will come to know once you are giving in your comment. If you are giving your comment, that will reach to me, and then I will try to communicate in you bilingual whenever some more clarification or some point where we need some different kind of thorough discussion or explanations. So with this I am starting this session, as the title of the session is Introduction to C++ Programming. So in any programming if we talk about, so what we think about when it comes that programming. Whenever the word programming come in our mind, we start thinking that we have to solve certain problem, we have to write some code. Now, as you are already aware or you have learned one programming language, that is C programming language, so you know that what is meaning of a programming language and how we proceed towards writing a program or solving a specific problem. So in C you have seen that you use different data types, primitive data types available in that, some operators you use, and then you use some statements to solve your specific problem. Basically when we talk about programming, we talk about that we are writing certain statements in certain order, and those statements when executed provide the specified result to us. Now, these all things we will be discussing in little detail in this session. And next comes that if we are having some specific component of our program or some section of the program or some specific module of the program, then that particular we try to implement through functions. So that function concept also we will discuss, and then the most important point that covers the basics of starting point or entry point in the object oriented programming direction, that is objects and class. So that we will discuss. So this is the basic agenda or outline of this particular session, and we will try to go through these agenda or outlines as we proceed further in our discussion in this session. So as far as programming or C++ programming is concerned, if I am saying that we are learning C++ programming to somebody, then what that person should interpret? This is a question, and that question should be answered by us, then only it is viable to learn that particular. If we are learning something, then it should be clear to us that for what purpose we are learning that particular thing. If the objective is not clear to us, then obviously we are not leading towards any fruitful direction. So it is very essential for have a proper objective for whatsoever we are doing. So when we put a question that C++ programming, or there is a course on C++ programming in the BCA third semester, then have you thought about that why this particular course is with you, why this course is offered to you, what is expected from you? Until unless you answer that particular question, you are not going to justify or serve the purpose for which this particular course is designed or offered to you. So it is very essential. In fact, for that matter, anything when we are starting, if we are not clear about the objective of that particular thing, then we will not put our effort in that direction to the level required, and it may be that we will not reach to our desired goal. So reaching to desired goal is possible only if we know that what actually our desired goal or objective is. So for that purpose, I have written the very first point in our discussion here, that C++ programming. What is meaning of it? We have already learned C programming. Then what is new we are going to gain in this particular course? So for that, I will say, or I will answer to this question. You can find your answer, you can explore several things. The whole material is available to you in the form of either hard copy or soft copy. Still, if you are not having material, you are advised to go to IGNOU course and download it. It is available, and it is very nicely can be used by you while you are using any kind of electronic device, whether it is your smartphone or laptop or desktop. So in C++ programming course, we are going to learn programming using a different paradigm or different kind of approach of problem solving. This is the objective of this particular course, and that approach is object oriented approach. So we have learned C programming. In that we have seen that we have used a structured approach. In that structured approach we have solved our problems, or we have learned the programming skill. But in this course we are going to learn the skill of object oriented programming and going to implement that particular skill throughout the course. Though the few first units might be similar to whatever you have learned in your C programming language, but gradually you move forward, or you move towards the concept of object orientation, you will find something new, something more interesting, and something more acceptable in terms of the solving a complex problem. If I am saying more acceptable in solving complex problem, it means that we are having some specific approach. Through that approach, if we are solving a complex problem, then it becomes more easier for us to tackle that complexity situation. That we will see gradually, that how, if I am making this particular claim that the complexity is reduced, then how complexity is reduced, that we will see. Now next comes the very first requirement, that whenever we are going to use any kind of variable, we take that variable as per our need, and obviously we look for the data type or the type of value that particular variable will store. So we will just give a glance to what are the different data types available in C++. Similarly, different kind of operators, these different operators are applied either between different operators or applied on different operands depending on the type of operators. For example, if unary operator is there, then definitely that particular will be applicable to only one operand. If binary operator is there, it will be applied between two operands. That you know because you have learned basic skills of programming in your previous course, that is MCS 11. Now next come the statements. Whenever we think about that we are writing a program, in fact we are not doing anything else than writing some sort of statements in our program and making those collection of statements to represent as a solution. Now question arises that whether only a series of statement writing is a solution or there are some other approaches. But you are already aware that statements writing may be divided in different category. One category we say that sequential statement. Sequential statement means we are writing one statement, then after that another statement, and then another statement. It means when execution of those statements will happen, it will happen in a sequence. Then next comes the conditional statements. Conditional statements says that on the basis of certain conditions we choose certain statements to be executed or not to be executed. And this particular also you have learned in your C programming course, but still these things are very much part of your programming course, and that this C++ programming course, and that take care of basic constructs of writing the program or developing the program. After conditional statements, next statement comes that iterative or looping statement. In iterative or looping statement, what we do is we try to write some statements and try to execute those statements several times. Means we are iterating the same set of statement time and again or repeatedly. Then we say that that particular is a looping statement or repetitive statement. So in that context, these three different categories of statements combined together makes your solution. No matter whatever program you are writing or you are solving, you will be using these different kind of statements, and the combination of these different kind of statements will be making your solution or making your complete program. Next comes the functions. The functions, as we have learned in our C programming, the functions are the specific code which performs some kind of specific activity. It means we have identified some independent specific activities in our program, and to perform those independent specific activities, we write code and we keep that particular code in a different block or section, and we name that particular as per different conventions in functions. And next comes object and class. So here just I am leaving object and class and I am moving forward, because whenever we will reach to completion of the discussion of these starting points, then we will again revisit whole things, and then we will try to see what actually object and class means and how we can proceed further in our programming using the concept of object and class. So the very first thing, if we have to think about a C++ program, so we can say that a C++ program is defined as a collection of objects that communicate with each other by invoking or calling each other's method. So now one new term here coming, that is object. So here we are claiming in this particular basically this is a trivial definition, or this is just a talking term sentence given about the C++ program, and this is saying that C++ program is nothing but collection of objects, and these objects communicate with each other to perform the operation. So just remember this point, because this point we will be repeating again and again, and definitely with more explanation on what actually object is. as the different primitive data types are concerned, these are the basic primitive data types available in C++ programming. You just go through your study material and see these different data types are available and what is purpose of these different data types. You are already aware, so I will not devote much time on it. But one question here I will raise, that what are the size of these different data types? If we have to know, then we can know that particular just by writing a small program. You can see on your screen here one operator I have used here, that is the size of operator, and this size of operator, in that if we are passing the data type as an argument, then it returns the size of that particular data type. So on the screen you can see the size of character, then the size of integer, the size of short int, then size of long, then size of float, and size of double I have passed as argument, and the result is shown on your screen, you can see. And one more thing here I mentioned, that whatever we are discussing on the slide, this slide will be available to you after completion of this session. In the comment section I will just forward the link, and otherwise on the SOCIS Facebook page we have shared the Google Drive link of the PPT presentation. From there also you can access it. But after completion of this session I will share that particular link in the comment section of this particular session also, so you can take the slides from there and you can use it as per your requirement. Now next comes the operators. So these are the basic operators which are used: arithmetic operators, the plus, minus, multiplication, then division, and then modulus. You already know these operators, so I will not discuss these things in detail, but it is just a kind of revisit because we are discussing the whole block of the course material of MCS 31, that is BCS, the course material of BCS 31, that is the C++ programming course. Then relational operator, this relational operator is equal to, less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to, not equal to, and then logical operators, that is logical AND, logical OR, and NOT. Then bitwise operators, bitwise AND, OR, negation, left shift and right shift, and then assignment operators. Basically all these operators you use in your different kind of operations or activities. Whenever you are writing any kind of expression or you are trying to formulate some kind of mathematical formula or expression, then you use these different operators for different purposes as per the requirement of the program and as per the logic of implementation of that particular solution. So in that context you can go through these things, and I will advise one thing, that just write a simple program in C++ and try to apply these different operators in different contexts and see that how successful you are, so that it will not take much time. It will hardly take maybe 1 hour or little bit more of that, so that you can check all the operators and application of all the operators. And as far as examples are concerned, these examples are given in our material and you have to access that, and you have to write the code given in the example form in the content material, and that particular will give a kind of practice to you. Now come the conditional statements. In conditional statements, as we know, if is a very commonly used construct or statement in problem solving. It says that if inside that condition, if we are giving, if condition is true, that condition is nothing but a expression, and that expression represent a boolean value. That boolean value is either true or false, means 0 or 1. Depending on the value 0 or 1, the statements inside the if block is executed. If the condition is true, it means the value represented in the expression as a condition is 1, then statement will be executed, otherwise that statement will not be executed, and your control will move further after if statement at the statements written inside the if block will not be executed. It means you are choosing the code which to be executed or which not to be executed on the basis of certain value assigned to your condition, and that value assigned to your condition may depend on several steps which you have taken previously in your program, and on the basis of that you decided. Nested if is again use of if, but it says that once a if statement is there, and inside that if statement, if we are using another if statement, it become a nested if statement. So that also you practice, it is given in your material, and it is just a kind of repetition of your C programming skill that you have learned. And similarly, if else statement is there, here we are saying that if condition is true, then statement 1 will be executed, or inside that, but if block whatever is written, that will be executed. If the condition is false, it means the value of condition expression is 0, then whatever written in the else section or the statement 2 section will be executed. It means we are doing a kind of branching. We will go to one branch depending on the value of that particular condition. If condition is 1, then we are choosing one branch, and if condition is 0, then we are choosing the second branch. So you can say the condition is deciding whether statements 1 will be executed or statements 2 will be executed. If such kind of conditions are there, then definitely you can use if and else. One example here I will give, that if you have attended the particular number of classes, then you are allowed to appear in the examination, otherwise you are not allowed to appear in the examination. That means on the basis of that specific condition value, whether it is true or false, you are deciding which path to follow. Then switch statement. Again, switch statement is a kind of statement in which you are having option of several selection. That several selection here, switch, and then in bracket you see E is nothing but it is an expression, and that expression is must to return an integer value. Either E should be one integer variable having its integer value, or if it is an expression, then after evaluation that particular expression, the expression value should be an integer value, and that integer value decide that in which case you have to go. For example, if expression E value is j, then case j will be executed, and whatever inside that case j block you have written, that particular will be executed. And for more detail, again you refer to your study material and try to implement that particular switch statement. Again comes looping. So in looping you can see here while loop, and next one is do while loop. While loop says that we are checking the condition first, then we are entering the control inside the loop or the block, and in that block we can enter only if the condition is true, and obviously the block will keep on repeating itself till the condition remain true. Once the condition become false, then we will come out of that particular block. So here one thing very important to notice in the iterative statement kind of programming is that whenever we are passing through an iterative process, it is very essential for us to alter in the condition, and that alter in the condition decide that whether we have to continue in the loop or we have to come out of the loop. So inside the loop you change your condition also as per your specific requirement. So in while the condition is checked first and then the statements are executed, and in do while loop at least you initially enter inside the loop and you execute whole set of statement inside that particular loop once, then you check the condition. So only one difference between these two kind of looping construct is that in while loop you are checking the condition first, then entering inside the loop. But in do while loop you are entering the loop and then checking the conditions, means it is guaranteed that do while loop will execute at least once whatsoever written inside that particular block. So if your programming requirement is of that nature, then definitely you will choose that particular specific kind of while looping statement as per your requirement. And another loop is, which is commonly used, is the for loop. And in this for loop, it is essential for you to know in the beginning itself that when or in which condition you are going to terminate, because it is totally basically giving the total number of counting, and you know the total number of counting, that how many times your loop will be executed. For example, here you are starting loop with a integer value I equal to 0, but you are sure that you are going to terminate when the integer I reach to a value that is up to n. If I is less than n, it will be executing, but once I become equal to n, then it will be terminating or it will be coming out of the loop. So that sequence of the statement will be executed for those many times which you have decided in the condition. So here you can see there are three components in the for loop. The first component says the initial value, the second one says the condition or the termination value, and the third one says that alteration in the variable which is going to decide the number of operations you are going to perform or the number of iterations you are going to perform in that particular way. So here you can see the use of for loop is given, and in this program we have tried to check the number. If a number is given and that number is prime or not, for that we have checked, and this program you can execute and you can write, as the result is also shown in the screen. Basically this program has been executed and the screenshot of the program has been taken and it is shown to you here for the reference. So you take this particular reference and try to write this particular program, and in this program you can see the demonstration of three components are given. One component is that how actually you are using a for loop, and inside that for loop how many times your system is going to execute the statements given in that for loop. But in addition to that, if statements are also used, and you try to implement this program and see how actually you can do it, and for more clarity how actually you have to write, how you have to execute, you refer the lab manual, that is BCS L032 course. In that course we have very clearly explained that how you have to write a C++ program and execute. So that will provide you a kind of help, and the environment or the IDE, that is integrated development environment used in this particular program, is Dev C++, and that Dev C++ you can download wherever you are and you can use that particular. It is available for you to access it and utilize it for writing the C++ program and learn the C++ programming. Now let us look at functions. As we know, if we are going to write a function, then it comes in our mind that how actually we are going to define that particular function, or what is going to be the prototype of that function. Prototype means what will be its return type, what will be its name, and what are the parameters which are going to pass in that particular function. So return type, then function name, then the parameter list. This is the prototype, and after that inside the body you write the set of statements or set of instructions which will perform the specific activity for which you have written your function or you are going to write your function. For example, here, if you are going to write a function to display the current balance in a given account, then obviously what you will pass as parameter is that the account number, and inside that you will write certain code of C++ program to fetch that particular value, because if you are having an account, that particular specific account number, then you will be storing the associated values of that particular account somewhere. So you have to find out the balance from there and then you have to return it. So this is a very simple form of representation how actually you will write a function. Now here you can see again a simple function is written for you, and this function is for generating factorial of a given number. So here you see what we have tried. This function is returning an integer value. The name of the function is fact function, and then what we are passing as argument into this function is an integer value, the number for which the factorial to be generated. And then we are writing the code. We are writing that if n equal to 1, then return 1, otherwise return n into n, and then basically we are calling the function recursively again for n minus 1. So this is a recursive function and it will call to itself till that particular condition reaches that the value of n reaches to 1. So you write this program and try to dry run. You will see you might have already exercised this particular program in your C programming course, and there you might have written a function for generating factorial, and recursively you can see how this particular function is running. So this is an example of how actually you declare a function, then you write the code for that particular function, and then in C++ program how you are using that particular function is given there. So I will request you to write this particular code and practice this particular code, and this will help you in learning the basic constructs of C++ programming. Now another function here written, that function is sum, and in this function you see what we have tried. We have tried to find the sum of three numbers. So in this function we are returning one integer value, and the name of the function is sum, and the argument we are passing are the three integers. You can see the num1, num2 and num3, all these are the three integers, and then inside the function we have declared a local variable, and in that local variable we are storing the sum of, or we are making an expression rather, and we are storing the sum of the three values which we have passed to the function, and then we are returning the sum. So this exercise also you do, and this is again a very simple exercise, but once you are practicing these small exercises, you will be comfortable enough to proceed towards writing little bit more complex exercises and solve specific problems which are assigned to you in the form of assignments or in the form of check your progress in your material, or otherwise also you can write some program to test your skills or enhance your skills. Now comes the main important point of this particular session. So far I have just tried to recap the basic concepts which are required in C++ programming, which you have already covered in your C programming language. So this basic formulation or this basic knowledge is very essential for you to proceed further in your C++ programming course. And in C++ programming course, as I already mentioned in the beginning, that you will be learning a different kind of paradigm of the programming, and that different programming paradigm is object oriented programming. So what object oriented programming means, let us discuss here, and just please listen carefully And one more thing I repeat again here before I proceed further, that if you need your conversation to be bilingual or you need some kind of हिंदी, थोड़ा बहुत अगर आपको हिंदी में भी एक्सप्लेनेशन की ज़रूरत है तो आप अपने कमेंट सेक्शन में लिखें उसको. I will try to communicate to you in Hindi also wherever I feel that I need little bit more conversation in Hindi, so that you can go through the concept or explanations more easily. So please give your comments, and once again I proceed further, I will request you to put your queries in the form of comments related to this particular course or this particular topic which we are discussing here, and I will try to answer those questions after this session is over. Now let me come to the very important point of this particular session, or rather very important point of whole course which you are going to learn in this particular C++ programming course. That important point is the concept of object orientation. Now let me very quickly see whatever written on the slide, then we will explain it with some example and with more elaboration and explanation on it. Concept of class and objects are used in object oriented programming. So obviously one thing will come in your mind, that what is meaning of class and object. So just hold on it, you keep this particular question in your mind, I will try to answer that. The collection of data and its operation is referred to as an object. So one simple definition of object is written in that particular statement, that is collection of data and its operation. Now question arises that what operation? When I say its operation, so it is having a question mark, and that question mark we can answer when we know that what is the meaning of object, and if we are visualizing one object, then what actually we feel about it, what we think about it, and how we will associate the collection of associated data with that object. So again I will say, just hold on the questions what you are having. Then data is local to an object. So collection of data and operations are there which are associated with the object, and those data are local to the object. So here we are talking about some local declaration or some local assignment of different data to objects. Now next comes, it is encapsulated within an object and it's accessible from outside of the, it is not accessible from outside of the world. So again we are saying that whatsoever is inside the object, it is not easily accessible from outside of the world until unless we are willing to share it. So again I will say, you just raise your level of the question and you again start thinking little bit deep, that what actually we are going to talk about and what is the actual philosophy of the object orientation, and if we are talking about object, then what kind of things will look like a object. Then object only know how to interact with each other through the interface of its operations. Now this last point basically give more clue about what actually we are going to talk about objects, is that objects are talking to each other or communicating to each other with some kind of interface. It means whatever one object want to share to another object, that can be shared with the help of interface. Now the actual thinking about object orientation starts on these points, and that actual thinking leads towards object oriented programming philosophy and visualization of objects. Now whatever written on the slide, just keep that particular apart and answer one question: how you communicate with your friends? Obviously you will say that I talk to my friend. So whenever you are having some specific context to talk to your friend, then you are having some specific kind of processing inside you, obviously. So whenever we are communicating to somebody, then definitely we are communicating to that particular specific person with certain context. So context is very important. For example, if you are talking to your friend, you will be talking differently. If you are talking to a classmate, you will be talking differently. If you are talking to your teacher, you will be talking differently. If you are talking to your brothers and sisters, maybe you are talking differently. And in that context, if you are talking in a gathering of professionals and you are discussing something, you will be talking differently. So now see, you are one person, but you are behaving differently in different context. It means in different contexts, you are depicting different kind of characteristics. And what is meaning of those depiction of different kind of characteristic? The meaning is that the context in which we are currently dealing with or in conversation with, in that context only we gather different kind of information, we compile those things and we proceed towards providing the result of that particular. For example, if I am talking to you on this particular course only, then obviously my whole contention is to have focus on whatever concepts we have in this particular course, and we have to perform operation associated with that only. We have to discuss concepts, we have to discuss different constructs, different aspects associated with C++ programming only. So we are confined to some specific topic. Now just segregate from whole lot of thinking to some specific topic, means we are reaching towards solving a specific problem and we are reaching towards having some very fixed solution to a specific problem. And if we are talking about that specific problem, then obviously we will talk about data associated with that specific problem. Now let me take one example, and through that example I will try to explain the concept of object again. Whatever I explained here, the purpose of that particular explanation is quite simple, and that particular is that just to take away from your normal approach of thinking towards the thinking in some another rational approach of thinking, and that rational approach of thinking leads us to think in terms of object oriented philosophy. And this movement from the conventional way of thinking to a thinking which leads towards thinking in terms of object, interaction of different object to another object for solving the specific problem, if that we develop, then whenever a kind of problem is presented to us, we will be able to identify different object in that particular problem, we will be able to identify different operations of different object in that particular problem, and obviously we will be moving towards actual implementation of object oriented philosophy. More on this object oriented philosophy are studied in object oriented analysis and design course. So the student who are interested to know more about object oriented philosophy and different concepts associated with object oriented philosophy, they can refer that particular course. Otherwise that course is in MCA program, the MCA third semester MCA program of IGNOU, and that particular third semester course of MCA program MCS 32 is having more discussion about different philosophy, different principles of object orientation and solving problem using object oriented concept. In C++ programming, obviously we are having the concept of object orientation, and that is up to a basic surface level, or I will say the up to elementary level, and from there we try to gather the concept of object orientation and try to write the program using object oriented concept. Now let me define object in a very simple way, or simple term that we easily can understand. So I will say the very first thing that object is anything that is having its own physical or logical existence. It means whatever we are seeing our around is object, and if that particular thing is having some physical or logical existence, then we can treat that particular as an object. So for having physical or logical existence, what is required? to have physical and logical existence, it is required to have certain characteristic, certain identification and certain features or operations. If something is there, it will be used for some activity. If something is there, it will be having certain attributes associated with it. For example, I am taking an student as an object. Now, if I am thinking about a student and an object, it means that student should exist physically or logically. Obviously, your logical existence will be there when you are registered, let us say, in a specific program, then you are a student of that particular program, and that entity which is carried different kind of activities in that particular system. For example, once a student is registered, that student is having associated attributes. For example, if you are registering in BCA third semester, then you are BCA third semester of IGNOU program. In addition to that, some more attribute you will be having. You will be having one assigned enrollment number with you. Similarly, many more things for different kind of identification or operations. Certain name, whatever your name is there, that will be associated. Your roll number, maybe your sex, your age, maybe for communication purpose your address, the study center in which you are registered, that particular study center, the fee of the semester, whether you have paid or not, different kind of status associated with the fee. There may be many more activities. For example, assignment submission, whether you have submitted assignment or not. Now see, I have taken one object, student, and how many different operations associated with that object? So many operations. And how those operations will be applied or happen? That will happen on data associated with you. So now it should be little more clear to you that when I am talking about collection of data and its operation associated with a object, so when I said student object, so once you visualize one student object, then you will visualize so many data associated with that particular student object and so many operations associated with that student object. Now, if you are going to perform all the operation in one go, it will be very tough. Then what you will do? You will select the specific data and the specific operation in specific context. And what is context? What kind of problem you are going to solve using that particular object. So object is having certain role to define or certain role to play in the system. When I am saying certain role to play in the system, it very clearly means that once you are having an object, that object is having its own attribute or data. Data and attribute, when we say, it is interchangeable. Basically these two terms are used, and some other terms are also used, data member, and then operations are known as member function. So for that, if you will go to the study material, these things will be clear to you, maybe in little more detail or in the terms of the programming. But in conceptual terms, once you visualize the object very clearly, then definitely you are in position to perform the different operation associated with that. I hope with this you will be in position to visualize more objects. For example, in banking system, when you talk about, there is an account object. The account object is having some operation associated with that. The operation is to deposit money, to withdraw money, to check the balance, to close the account. So it's all depend on what kind of problem you are solving and what kind of objects you are visualizing. Once you are visualizing an object, definitely you will be associating certain operation with that particular object, and those operations are nothing but functions. If we talk in very simple term, so those operations are nothing but functions, and then comes the application of those functions for performing different activities. Now, to perform different activities, more objects will communicate to each other or will participate in the process. Again, I will take the student example. If a student object is participating in, let us say, in this Facebook live session, then there are several other objects which are making this whole activity to happen. If we take this particular as a programming challenge or programming problem, so in this programming problem, there are several students objects which are participating in it. Maybe some students objects are providing their comments. So again, for providing their comments, there should be certain functionality, and that functionality is available. So now you see, in this bigger context and environment, you are having several objects associated with that. There is a teacher object who is trying to communicate on certain concepts. There are some student objects who are having some doubts and asking. It means there are several objects who are participating in the system. And then comes the relationship. That is how the communication is happening. For example, in this particular example, one teacher, many students. So one to many relationship is there in this system which is existing in live Facebook session participation. So similarly, one manager, many account, one account holder, one account. It may be, and similarly many more things will come when you will try to explore or just try to open the threads from a given piece of cloth. Basically just try to correlate this particular, take any example, I am saying take any example around you and try to visualize that particular, keep different objects at different places and try to see that how those different objects are communicating with each other and what kind of operations they are performing and what kind of data they are using to perform those operations and how you are identifying those different objects with the help of their different data. So in this context, a very complex thing you will try to visualize in small components, and those small components combined together will make a complex and large system. In that, those small components are nothing but objects and they are communicating to each other. Now, an object is a collection of operations which share a state, and collection of operations characterize the behavior of object. An operation consists of two parts, an interface and correlated implementation. And interface specifies the signature of operation. As I told, that just try to understand it as a method. So it is having the specific signature or prototype and the parameter and then return value, obviously if it is returning something, and the implementation inside that particular. But the most important part is that the very first one shown on the screen, and that is an object is collection of operations which share a state, and collection of operations characterize the behavior of object. Now let me take the example which is little more simple one, the account object. If we have taken account object, so it is collection of operation. I am saying collection of operation means the account object will have certain operation associated with it, and those operations are what? Those operations are to deposit the money, to withdraw the money, to check the balance, and obviously the account object will be having some data also, and that data is what? The data is the account number, account balance, maybe the address of the account holder, the bank name, the branch name, branch code of that particular bank in which the account exists, and maybe many more things. Maybe the account type, if you are talking about a specific type of accounts, maybe saving account, maybe current account, maybe fixed deposit account. So there are several possibilities. See, a simple example is trying to open several possibilities, and from those several possibilities you have to choose the specific one which is required for your problem solving. And that is again a kind of concept that we say that abstraction. Abstraction means choose as per your requirement only and so as per requirement of the individual when you are sharing the information with others. Let me move little more further and try to see again few example. Object will be having outside view and inside view. One point I skipped there, and that was the state of the object, and that state of the object I will explain here. The state of the object means at a specific moment, whatsoever the value assigned to the attributes of that particular object, that make the state of that object. For example, currently you are an object, student object of, let us say, MCA third semester. So your current state is showing different data associated with you. For example, roll number is X, then you are assigned to a specific study center, you have registered in MCA third semester, BCA third semester, and you are registered in the courses of BCA third semester. Now think about the situation once you complete the third semester and register in fourth semester. Then you are the same student for the university, but some of your value will change. It means state of the object will change. Roll number will remain same. Maybe if the same study center is again allocated to you, that particular will remain the same. Your name will remain the same. Your communication address will remain the same. But semester in which you are registered will change. The courses in which you are registered will change. It means currently whatsoever your attributes are there, that particular is depicting your state at that moment of time or that particular point of time. Again, if I take example of account object, if in account object, let us say we deposited some money in that particular account, then the state of that particular account object will change, because the current balance what was before the depositing of amount will change now after depositing of amount. Similarly, when you withdraw some money from the account, state of the object will change. So you have to take care of one thing here, that whenever you are performing some operation and the value of the attributes of the object change or the data associated with the object change, then state is going to change. So basically the object behavior is going to be dynamic in that sense, because whenever you are participating in a programming and you are developing a program using several objects, and if those several objects are communicating with each other, so they are communicating, and in that process the attribute, maybe the different objects are changing, and that's why different objects will be in different state at different moment of time. So you have to take care of that particular aspect. Now again, how objects will communicate to each other? Objects will communicate to each other with the help of message passing, and that message passing happens with the help of certain interface, and that interface is nothing but the implementation of those operations, and implementation of those operations are what? Implementation of the function which you do. If you right now just compare with the function implementation of C. So you are having function, but now you are having function associated with a specific type of objects. You are not having open function to anybody. It means if in a system there are several objects, again the very simple example you take, the student object, the teacher object, then you can say that the teacher object will be having different type of function. For example, teacher object will deliver the lecture, student object will listen the lecture. Student object will submit the assignment, maybe teacher object will evaluate the assignment. So operation of different objects are well defined and separate, and they are communicating with each other with the help of their interface, and that interface is the message passing, or that is in technical term known as message passing, or once one object is communicating to other object, it communicates with the help of message passing. Now some advantage let us see here for object oriented programming. So in object oriented programming, one thing is very clear to us, that whenever we are talking about object, we are talking data associated with that. It means data is going to be associated with the objects. So accidental modification of the data will not happen. That chance is not there, because until unless object is modifying the data, somebody from the outside is not going to modify that particular data. That was not in the case of C programming language, as if you are having a global variable, that global variable can be accessed by any function in the C program. So that global variable was prone to have some kind of accidental modification by any function in the program. Easier maintenance. Once you have divided whole thing in the form of different objects, so those different objects are nothing but a kind of bundle of data and operations, and once those bundles are there, so there are different bundles, and managing different bundles is much more easier than opening all the things and keeping on a single table and managing that. So you are managing individual objects, or philosophy of individual objects, rather than managing the whole program in one go. So once you are required some kind of modification in individual objects implementation, then it will not have effect on other objects which are available in your system. So it is easy to maintain. High level of modularity, obviously, because you are dealing with the different objects, and those different objects are communicating with each other with the help of certain interface only. So once you are modifying something, you don't need to show that to outside world that I am modifying something, because interface is the same, but internal modification you can do as per your requirement, and it will not have any effect on others. Reuse. Reuse is one of the most important concept of object oriented programming, and that state that once we have developed certain code, how that particular code can be used again to expand the system or develop some other system which are going to use the existing code as their own core and then develop something more on that. So that reusability concept basically is one of the key concept, and that happens with the help of inheritance. Maybe in next session or other conversation we will discuss about that, how actually the reusability happens. And one important concept, as I mentioned earlier, that also that abstraction. So one data abstraction concept you have to remember, that data abstraction defines as collection of data and methods, member functions. So once you are defining inside that particular member function, so whatever happening inside that you are not going to show outside world, and that also leads towards encapsulation and data hiding also. So encapsulation concepts tells that the internal data of a class are first separated from outside world. They are put along with member functions in a capsule. Encapsulation is also known as information hiding, and it refers to separating external interface accessible to other objects from implementation detail which are hidden from them. Class efficiently manage the complexity of large program with the help of encapsulation. Now, I have not formally defined class so far. Now, before I conclude this session, let me formally define the concept of class so that we can go towards writing our code and implementation, and once you are referring to your study material, you will be able to visualize that what we have discussed in this particular session and how actually we comprehend the content given in the material and write our code or our program. Because once you will see the program in your particular context or in your material, you will see that it starts with the class. The first class is defined, and then inside that class you are having different data members, then you are having different functions, and then you create the object using those class, or you make instance of class. Basically class you represent as a type, and then you represent the operations inside that particular class that depict the characteristics of object which you are creating. Now formally, if we classify something, how we classify something? Class is nothing but classification, let us say. So classification means if something of similar nature, then we put that particular at one place and then we say that it is a kind of group of similar thing. Similarly, if something different is there and that represent the similar characteristic, then we say it is another group. So in that way you classify the different things on the basis of what? On the basis of the characteristic of those different things or different objects. Now, if we are having, let us say, so many objects of same nature, then we can put those objects together at one place and we can say it is a group of those things, and that group is nothing but class. Now let me take the example again which we discussed. We have discussed several times the student object, the account object. Now if I say there is a student class, that student class represent what? Represent different students which are having same characteristic. Now if I talk to a specific class, I am talking to a class, or I am talking to different objects of which class? Student class, and this is a very specific student class, class of BCA 3rd semester BCS 031 course. So this classification I have done. If I am just doing a simple classification, I can say there is a student class and this student class is having several objects, or several objects are created using this particular class, or several objects are grouped together to make this class, and those different objects are participating in the whole process of operation. Similarly, accounts, there will be several accounts, but all those accounts objects will have their own separate data value, but one thing they will have common. All those objects will have one thing common, and that common thing is the method, the characteristics. All objects of a specific class will have the common characteristic or common method provided by the class, but all different objects will have their own data members or attributes. So with this I wrap up or conclude this session. In this session I tried to explain you the basic concepts used in C++ programming. In the starting of the session I discussed about different data types, operators, different kind of statements, and then we discussed about the function, and then we tried to understand that what is meaning of object oriented programming and what is the meaning of object and what is meaning of class. So this is just a foundation or just a background. On that now you can proceed further, and this discussion will make you more comfortable and more easy to grasp or comprehend whatever given in your material. Now onward you can directly move to 3rd unit of your block 1 and further on, and easily you can grasp it. And one thing I will say that whatever code is written there, try to implement those code and see the result of those codes. It will help you in your learning process. And in addition to that, there are several aspects associated with object oriented programming, that how actually you will define a class, how actually you will declare different data member inside the class, what will be the different kind of accessibility, whether the data member is going to be private, public or protected, how you will define your functions, how you will initialize the objects. So concept of constructors and other things we will discuss in next session whenever opportunity is provided to us to have interaction with you. With this, thank you all.